please rise. And now, to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem. Representing the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, Arlette.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Hey, Sam, I got to tell you, I do a lot of hockey and I do a lot of podcasts and everything, and you guys have one of the best podcasts anywhere. It's knowledgeable, it's fun, and you do it right. So thank you for your time and for having me on the show.
Happy Devil Sunday! This is the Let's Go Devils podcast. Oh, do we have a podcast for you? Because we are going to be talking about your New Jersey Devils. You can watch us on Facebook Live, Twitter Periscope, YouTube Live, and Twitch, all powered by the Primetime Radio Network, now simulcasting on Primetime Radio. So we've got a great guest tonight. Season 3, episode 44 is titled, What's for Dinner, Chico? Because tonight, stopping by at the Primetime Radio Virtual Studio is Devils alumnus, Stanley Cup champion, color analyst for the Devils Hockey Network, Glenn Chico Resch. Welcome back, Chico. You are with Sam, Scott, John, and Scotty from SiriusXM Liquid Metal. How are you tonight?
Oh, that introduction was awesome. Boy, did that bring back memories. And Arlette has become a good friend of mine. And boy, she's just so synonymous with those championship years. And it was good to hear her. And just the whole deal, let's go Devils. I mean, it was good. And this is no word of lie. We got a little meat market up here in Emily where I live. And my wife went and got some of their homemade hot dogs today. And we had that for lunch. So that was kind of appropriate. Hockey game, some hot dogs. And it's got the feel that we're going to be back playing hockey soon. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's realistic, but that's what it feels like.
So, Chico, thank you so much for joining us. As always, it's such an honor and a privilege for us to get a chance to talk to you. Thinking about hockey coming back soon, what is the one thing that you're looking forward to once things get back to where we can go to games and get back to the rink? What is the one thing that you are looking forward to the most?
Well, I think it's the excitement, obviously. The fans are really missing it. They have such belief in their team. They have almost, not unrealistic, but an unwavering enthusiasm. And so when you go to a game, it's like tonight's going to be the night of something big's going to happen. I remember, hey, guys, the last couple of years when we weren't very good, I got to tell you, the fans every night thought that night we were going to be good. So I miss that energy and excitement. And I don't know, we could talk about maybe each one of you, your most vivid memory. Maybe you went with your dad the first time you went to a game. But I remember my dad took me to a game in Moose Jaw. You guys know where Moose Jaw is, right? 6 feet from the moose's butt. 6 feet from the moose's butt. That's the Moose Jaw joke. But it was about a 40-minute drive. It was out of town. We were in Regina, and the game was in Moose Jaw. But, guys, it was just junior hockey. I mean, it was major junior. But I remember where we sat, the excitement. It's an escape, but an exciting escape. So I don't know about you guys, but if any of you have like your first game that just, sold you completely on hockey rather than baseball, football. That's what I always find with people in the New York area. Why are you hockey fans, not the Giants, Jets, Yankees or Mets or basketball? So I just miss the excitement of hockey fans.
Yeah.
Well, I'll kind of start in there with mine. I remember the first game I went to was Devils versus Bruins in the 94 season. And I was just starting to play and just figuring out if I was going to be a forward or a goalie. And I was leaning more towards goalie. And the starting goalie for the Devils that night, because it was the Bruins, was Chris Terreri, who was their Bruin killer. And I remember he made a gigantic split save, right? We were at the one end and he was right there in front of me. He made a gigantic split save and I was like, oh, I need to do that. And I need to play that position. and that's been it. And so that was 94 and it's 2020 and I've been playing goalie ever since. So that's my first game. That's my first big memory. And then I'm going to throw a second one in there. I was there in Game 4 in 95. That is right up there with seeing that big Chris Terreri save against the Bruins. So that's my addition.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say I was going through some stuff because my niece and nephew are coming from Des Moines, Iowa. He's an assistant coach with the Wilds farm team in Des Moines, where Scotty Clemenson is from. This is no word of lie. I was helping my wife. Luckily, I remembered what time the podcast was. And we were cleaning up. And what do I find under this where I keep a lot of stuff? A pair of Chris Terreri gloves. There's no word of lie. And I just said, where did I get those? But maybe those are the gloves he made that incredible save with. I might even give them to you if we can work a deal out. I'll give you a sweetheart deal.
That would be awesome. I'd be down to make a deal for that.
Let's make a deal. You got to barter with Chico. You got to find a barter.
I'll tell you what. So 94, that was obviously the season that Brodeur came in and like took the team in the league by storm as a rookie. Yet because I saw Terreri make that big save in my first live game, I actually was a bigger Chris Terreri fan at first, and then obviously became a Brodeur fan, and then started to model my game more after his. But I loved Chris Terreri as a goaltender. I had that same combination cage and helmet that he wore, and I just recently found it, so I'm going to try to refurb it and maybe hit the rink with it once or twice, but. Yeah, that would be. I'd be willing to make a deal for those gloves. So we'll talk after the podcast.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think we'll work something out because I like Chris Terreri and I have so much, equipment, that I've collected. So my wife was just saying I got to thin some of it out. So the timing is perfect.
That is perfect, like it was meant to be.
Chico, if you want, we can have an auction on the podcast with some of your equipment, going to charity or something like that. Yeah,
it's not a bad idea. I mean, for charity, I would be down for that one time. I got to be honest. I love your podcast, and you guys do it very, very well. I don't know what your numbers are. I don't know if people would be interested in that, but you sketch it out, and if it is, maybe the next time I come on, we'll have a couple of not so much mine, but I've got some Marty Brodeur items. I got some pretty cool items from the Cup years, so maybe we could do something for charity.
Yeah, that would be great.
Speaking of numbers, Chico, if you want to hear our numbers, we're almost near 70,000 total downloads, over 350,000 views in about 2 years. So I think we'll get some eyeballs for the charity and stuff.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. And we're the most commented Devils podcast in the history of New Jersey Devils podcast. I just wanted to get that in there.
He has that on a plaque in his office too.
Yeah. Most comment.
He actually made the plaque though to put in his office. That's the thing.
It's really just a piece of paper with marker on it.
Yeah. And when I was in kids hockey, you guys, and it was in Regina, which is 40 miles from Moose Jaw. And you guys know where Moose Jaw is, right?
Yeah.
You know where Moose Jaw is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we know now.
So anyway, my dad put up like 2 years in a row. He said, I'm going to give an award, for the best goalie in the league. So who do you think won it 2 years in a row? I said, Dad, you're my dad. You can't. It's kind of like the plaque deal, right? Putting up, making you plaque. I said, Dad, you can't do that. So, but
oh man, that's pretty funny.
Well, Chico, talking about some of those older games and older memories too. We actually had someone on our Facebook page just asking for you to give your thoughts on Jacques Caron and what he did with Marty's development. When they was coming up.
Well, it's interesting. I played against Jacques, and Jacques has some incredible stories. Jacques was very confident, which I think you guys would agree. You would have to be when you're coaching, really a legendary goalie who became what he did. But here was interesting about Jacques. He never thought, and I'm saying this affectionately. He didn't think that, Marty knows more than I do now because, he's won cups and he's, won all these games. Jacques always felt that he could give Marty something new that would increase, the dimension of Marty's game. And Marty respected him so much. But, Jacques did the stock market. He was funny. I'll just tell you one story. When Jacques was playing in the minor leagues, and this is going back, but we can do a little history, right, guys? You don't mind?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay,
we got all night.
He's okay. Before expansion, there were 6 teams, as you know, up until 67. You're doing your history: Boston, Chicago, Montreal, Toronto, Detroit, and New York. And so he was stuck in the minor leagues playing in Springfield. Springfield was owned by one of the legendary, he'd be like, I don't know, he wouldn't be Babe Ruth, but Eddie Shore. I don't know if you've heard of him. It was Shore to Orr.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, he was a character, and he was a fighter, and he was like an aggressive guy. I mean, he had some really good points. But anyway, so Jacques playing for him, and Jacques said, it was really tough because he would tie a rope around my neck sometimes and hang it so I wouldn't go down. He didn't want him to go down. There was no butterfly. But, just gimmicky stuff. So Jacques said, we're playing in Buffalo. Now, Buffalo is the old auditorium, but it's the Buffalo Bisons. It's the minor league team. And Jacques hasn't seen his wife, who went down to Florida. Now, remember, guys, this is in the 60s. Jacques' wife had gone down to Florida to take some classes. So he hadn't seen her for 2 weeks, and she was still living up in Canada, so she was just going to pass through. They've been married for a number of years. But after the game, Eddie Shore came in, and he must have heard that Jacques' wife was going to be in town, And he said to all the players, okay, tonight after the game, I don't want you guys doing anything but going back to your room. Don't want you going out eating. I don't want you, seeing anybody. You just go back to your room. So Jacques says, I know what he's up to. So Jacques and Eddie Shore go into the coach's room, and the auditorium, that's where the French Connection, it was a great old rink. But there was a little bathroom and there was a little office there. And Jacques went in and said, hey, Eddie, I haven't seen my wife for 2 weeks. I'm going to be with her tonight. I am going to be with her. She came all the way from Florida on her way home. And Eddie Shore, trying to make a point, starts getting aggressive and, kind of throwing his chest out like he's going to intimidate Jacques. And Jacques says, you're not intimidating me. And so Eddie Shore comes around like he's going to go at him. Now, you got to remember, guys, this is an incredible story where a player, especially, would go after Eddie Shore. But he says, I grabbed Eddie. I mean, this is old-time hockey. You guys have no idea. I can tell you a story. But he's just wrestling around, and we fell in through the door into the bathroom, and I'm fighting the owner because he owned the Springfield. I think they were the Springfield Indians, and he was the coach and the GM. And so anyway, he says, I finally let him up. Some of the other guys heard the ruckus, and they came in and broke it up. So Eddie Shore said to Jacques, come on. He says, all right, Jacques, you can be with your wife because you're out of here. I'm suspending you. You're not playing on this team anymore. Jacques says, fine. So he goes, and they spend the night in Buffalo. He and his wife go home. He says about 2 weeks later, gets a call from Eddie Shore. Eddie says, Jacques, I'd like you to come back. Jacques says, oh, you would, huh? He says, well, I'm going to tell you, Eddie, Jacques saying this, if I come back, you're paying me for those 2 weeks that you suspended me, or I'm not coming. Now, Eddie Shore was really tight, and that had to be a hard yes for him. But Jacques said, yeah, all right. And so anyway, he went back, and then he got picked up in the expansion in 67. I think this was like 65 or 66. But I told you that story because Jacques was confident. He was fiery. He knew what was right and what was wrong. He was, he like a lot of players, he was a really good goalie, a really good player. But some of the best coaches are the guys that are just kind of average because they've got to have to figure it out. It wasn't just on skill. Like, Marty Brodeur, let's be honest, any phenom, Marty just had a feel like nobody I saw. I mean, he was playing a style that other goalies would call me when I was doing TV and in the room. Hey, how does Marty make those saves? How can Marty stand up like that off the wing? How come he doesn't give up any 5 holes? And he doesn't cheat down on the butterfly. My point is, Marty was a phenom. Jacques Caron was exactly the personality that Marty Brodeur would need to be pushed and really respect the coach. And then let's be honest, Marty's the first to admit it. Lou Lamoriello built a team around the goalie. And it would have benefited any goalie. But when you have a phenom goalie, you win 3 Stanley Cups. And so it was, it was all a team effort there and a lot of different personalities. But boy, I don't know. I often think of those years, how it all falls together, and it just things that you can't really plan. I just think of some of the things that happened that just occurred, and it wasn't any brilliant maneuvering on anyone's part. I mean, like you said, Terreri looked when he was younger that he might be better than Marty because he was flamboyant and all that. But, I mean, who would have known that Marty Brodeur was going to be the winningest goalie and 3 Stanley Cups? But anyway, that was... Well, kind of, but Lou, and I'm not knocking Lou because Lou wasn't. He's not. I know. I'm just joking. No, I know. No, because we were talking about that the other night about Bill Torrey and Al Arbor and the Islanders, that dynasty. And this friend of mine up in New Brunswick's trying to get this defenseman into the New Brunswick Hall of Fame. And we were just talking about players who weren't great, but in that room, and you guys know that, they were such a huge part of the energy and the togetherness of the team. And that's all I'm saying. I'm sure it was like Scott Niedermayer. I mean, again, I saw Scott in junior. I was scouting then. I mean, he was really good, but did I think he was going to be that good? I'd be lying if I said I did.
So, Chico, one of our friends from the Facebook group, they wanted to ask you a question about the current state of the Devils. And our friend Matt wanted to know, who do you think the Devils should hire as a GM? Which I think is a great question, because right now there's so many unanswered questions with how the season's going and, you know, what's going on in the world. But he also says, who do you think that the Devils should draft with that first overall pick that they have? Well, their first pick that they have, because I think they should have 2 in the first round. But do you think that Fitzgerald will stay on as a GM, or do you think that they're going to look outside the box?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, and they have interviewed other people. I think what we got to do here, gentlemen, and everybody listening, what constitutes a good GM? Like, what is the difference? You got to have hockey knowledge. But what I'm saying is, like, Lou Lamoriello didn't go out and scout every player. He had really good scouts, really good people that he trusted. And so I'm thinking with Tommy Fitzgerald, he made some good trades. Well, that'd be another question. We could go on and on. But were the trades that he made, near the trading deadline, would you guys agree? And was it Matt who was the question? Who wrote the question?
Yeah, Matt. Yep.
Yeah, Matt. I mean, I would ask you guys: Did he do well in the trades that he had his hand in? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think he did an all right job, and I think that it was such a shock for us when Ray Shero was let go, and I don't know if I could speak for everybody, but I could say that for us, or at least for myself, it was a shock, because it felt like he was doing a fine enough job on his own accord. And it felt like that Ray was bringing the ship around and starting to right everything and get everything in the right direction. So when he got let go and Tom Fitzgerald took over, it was right before the trade deadline. And then there was a lot of questions if the ownership was going to let him have full reign to, do whatever he wanted with the team. And obviously he was able to, because he traded Andy Green and Blake Coleman and got some pretty good return. So the fact that they haven't hired anybody, whether it be from, because of the situation that's going on in the world, or I don't know. It's kind of confusing, to be honest. I think he did a good enough job to stay on as a GM, but if they have somebody else in mind, then I'd be curious to see who it is.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, when they do interviews, in today's world, the owners look for something just beyond the hockey. I truly believe that. I mean, there's so many components to when Mr. McMullen had the team. I mean, he was wealthy. It wasn't like, it was an expensive sport, but he just loved it. And, Lou was there, and Lou ran the show, and that's all he wanted. But I think in today's sports world, owners are much more involved. And just like if they're going to hire, a CEO or whatever, they're looking for something beyond just the obvious. And I can't really say what that is, but I don't think Tommy Fitzgerald has done anything wrong. I think he's done some really nice things, had a great career. We got a good scouting staff. I mean, in terms of scouts, since Lou left, since Ray's been here, I'm trying to think, we got an awesome goalie who's going to be, a franchise goalie. Heischer, best player available. We got him, obviously. I don't know if you guys, you could look back and say, well, maybe we should have went with him. Remember, Patrick was number 2. Remember, for the kid it's, he's had his struggles. And then, Jack Hughes, I don't know how you could have picked anyone else. So I'm just saying, I don't see, if there had been some mistakes, say, for instance, like the Giants. I mean, I feel bad with the kid. Is it Baker?
Yeah,
Who's in all that trouble?
Yeah. See, I'm a big time Giants fan too. So yeah, reading that in the news, it's not good.
No, and that maybe is where a person could get relieved. Say, listen, I know it was kind of extenuating circumstances, but you can't take those risks. Not when we are a franchise that really, I mean, I'm not saying they should let him go. I'm just saying if it was something like that, then you're in, thin ice. But so with Tommy, I thought he did a great job. I thought the coaching staff, Elaine Nazardine, really trust me, guys, on this one. He's got a touch with the players. And when you say a player's coach, that could be misleading, like, oh, he just wants to be one of the boys. No, it's not like that. He's kind of like the Jacques Rana goaltending. Nice career, little, stints, a couple games in the NHL, but he had to learn how to be a good player. He really had to figure it out in a very competitive way. And I think, I saw PK Subban's interview, and I think he said we were 8-2-1 or 8-2 the last 10 games. I mean, we played really well under Elaine. So anyway, I could go on and on, but for me, I don't think anybody's done anything that deserves to be fired. I mean, the only thing which will happen down the road, depending on what happens, I think getting, a next Devil as even an assistant, you know what I mean? I think we need an ex-Devil in a bit of a prominent role in the coaching. I don't mean head coaching. I'm saying like maybe Scott Stevens would come back. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out here.
Mm-hmm.
But, but I don't think anybody with the Devils honestly deserves to be fired. But what about you guys? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I agree. But
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree. It seems to be the situation, that we're in with the stoppage of the season, or the pause, whatever you want to call it. The Devils were in the were ascending and doing much better, and it's so hard to make any kind of a decision, like a staffing decision, based on an incomplete job. So it's, ownership, whatever they decide to do, they're going to decide to do. But it seems to be like, Naz had the team going in the right direction. Fitzgerald seemed to be making some pretty solid moves. It just happens to be that, they thought they had another 5 weeks, at most, and then all of a sudden it got shut right there. So based on that small set of their work, I think they did a great job. And that's going to be up to ownership to kind of figure out. And then it's even hard, even if if the restart happens, it's going to be so hard to make a determination on finishing out the season and what that's going to be like, because it's going to be like a whole separate season. Having this much time off.
Yeah.
We were in the ascendancy, like I said, and all of a sudden it was like a pause.
Yeah.
So it's going to be I'm glad I'm not making that decision. We'll put it that way. Because that's going to be hard. That's going to be such a hard one to make. I feel like I'm deflecting all these massive decisions and all this stuff, but they're going to have to look at. They're going to have to look at what was going on, and then maybe kind of grade on a curve when it comes to what happens, once they restart, how many games they're going to get. Who knows? But I think they were going in the right direction. It's like an unfinished book right there.
Well, you're right. And they're not going to restart. Like, the Devils are pretty much done for the year. We are not going to, I'm almost sure of that. I don't want to tell you who told me, but I'm 99% sure. But what would be fair? But we're if we own the team, or we were making the decision, what you'd like to say to Naz and to Tommy and everybody, but again, talking negotiations, let's stay the course. We got a good group here. Let's keep it together for a year, and let's see where we are. I think that would be the fairest thing. Nobody deserved to be let go, but nobody maybe deserved to get a long-term contract. And I don't know that there will be a lot of those with coming out of this season. So I would just like to see the same group, because here's what I'll tell you. The locker room was very healthy. It always was. I mean, Ray Shero didn't do anything wrong, but everything that could go wrong, and you guys know this. Remember the first game where we were blowing out the pig, and and Schneid's had taken some medication for on some inflammation, which caused dehydration, and then the poor guy had to leave. And anyway, but my point is, I don't think we're going to see that. I think this team is really going to flex its wings. I mean, I don't know how high we're going to fly next year, but I could just, and when we talk about drafts, the Foot kid, I've done my homework on the Foot kid, and he can fire the puck. We need a winger. We need either for Nico, and he's got Kyle, but for Jack, we need a winger that can snap home, can really, rifle it. So for me, my priority would be, if there was depending where we drafted, there was a big-time defenseman, that would be number one on my list. And a close second would be a winger that can score.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I don't know how many times we've discussed it as well. Just defense, and especially because this draft is so deep coming up, but again, still brings up interesting points. Vancouver, our conditional picks, we have to figure out where exactly we're going to end up with all that. But interesting name. You threw out Scott Stevens for an assistant coach before. I had John Madden in the back of my head, because I know he's been doing a lot of coaching, and I think he's trying to move back up into the professional ranks from the collegiate ranks. So I thought that might be an interesting, route to go. Former player, but also someone who really, like you said, you said it a great way, learned, had to learn how to play the game really well. When you were talking about Jacques, feel like John Madden as well. Like, he wasn't going to score 40 goals a year. He had to really work for that spot on the roster, and he earned it with the Devils and when he was with the Blackhawks afterwards. So just an interesting point of view. But speaking of those last few games there where we were playing well, I was wondering your thoughts, because I know Shorts Guy here, myself, and Scott and Sam, we're all very excited about what Mackenzie Blackwood was showing in those last few weeks. Did you notice anything just in his play, in his game? I know it's been a little while now since we've been on this break, but if you put your mind back there, because you're seeing all those games, what did you pick up, from his play that maybe you saw different from the beginning of the season?
Well, I had the advantage because Rolly Melanson and I are really good friends, right? We came through the Islanders. So Scott, he's telling me what's happening in practice. He's telling me the process of where Mackenzie's got to get tougher, mentally.
We love
where
inside
Mackenzie
information.
Well, I mean, it's just, no, like the thing they're going to miss about Rolly's really like a direct, but Jacques Caron was like that. Jacques Caron had no problem telling Marty Brodeur, you just can't be doing that, or that's a goal you should have had. Do you know what I mean? Like, but then you've got to back it up with knowing what you're replacing with. I could say you guys aren't doing a good podcast, but then that'd be a lie, first of all. But then you'd say, okay, well, what can we do better? Don't just tell us we're. So that's what I'm saying about with Rolly Melanson. He'd been there. He coached some terrific goalies, in his career up in Montreal. He had Price for a while, and he had Theodore, and then he had Luongo. And anyway, I'm rambling here, but so he would just tell me, and then I would watch, what they had talked about, and Mackenzie made strides. Mackenzie, honestly, you guys, his blocker, his glove, he's in the top 5. In 4 or 5 years, you still got your podcast, and he's not one of the top goalies in the league. You say we're having a Chico Resch roast tonight, and we were going to give it to him for being so wrong, because I don't see any flaws in him. I don't. I think I've told you guys he was a forward at 12 years old, and he went to just go skiing in Lutzen, which is in Minnesota here, on the spring or on the Christmas break, and broke his arm and didn't even play the rest of the year as a defenseman. And then the next year he said, well, I'm going to be a goalie now at 13. But that's the theme a little bit, guys, of what we were talking about with Jacques, and with Alain Nazardine. And now with Mackenzie, he wasn't a phenom. Like he said, I'm just learning the game. It's my first entry into playing goal. So I got to figure all this out in a hurry. And so he's a thinker. Well, you any goalies know that you have to be a thinker, and you have to be a little bit
crazy,
different the way you. Yeah, that too. But so he's. You know what? I got to tell you this. He told me one time, and I can't tell you who, but this is what I liked. He said, Chico, one of my defensemen is driving me crazy. What do you think I should do? He says, I want to just blast him. I said, I don't think that's quite the right approach. But you wouldn't think it, because he's so nice. But it just showed me how much he wanted to win and get the team going in the other direction. And then he also told me that he realized, like, he's not an island out there. Like Marty Berger is the first to tell you, boy, those defensemen surrounding him, he needed them, and they worked together. So I just haven't seen. He's not cocky. He's not like taking anything for granted. He's not full of himself. He's humble enough, and still unsure of himself that he knows, he's not the real deal yet. He's got to prove it for 3-4 years. I just don't see anything that would derail him. And the last thing is on Mackenzie, we are going to get better. Like, right? You guys, we have to get better. We got too many good young players. We need to solidify the defense.
Yes.
And I wish we don't have a go-to defenseman. We don't have a hub where people, revolve around, him. Like, I don't want to say, not Shattenkirk, I'm sorry, Pietrangelo, we don't have that. Niedermeyer, even a Scott Stevens right now.
Right.
So that would be where we look to really put a real big piece in the mix. But then, where are those guys, and how do you get them? They're far and few between.
Yeah.
Chico, we got a question from the Facebook group. One of your fans, his name is Pete. He is asking, did you get a boat during retirement?
I worked on it today. I got a pontoon.
Oh, really?
I did. And it was very, very nice of them. And this was, oh, is that some boating music I'm hearing?
Yeah. That's Pete the organist, actually. Say hello, Pete.
There you go. It was very nice of this ownership in Madison Square Garden.
Oh.
We are going back. Remember when you guys when organ music was the jazz music of hockey games? It was simply organ music.
Hey, Pete, is your mic on? We didn't do an audio check beforehand.
My mic's on now, but did you hear the organ?
We could.
No, we did. Well,
we heard it.
Barely.
Well, I'm actually having
Barely.
audio issues today, so you guys can hear it. My setup is just terrible today. How you doing, Pete?
Hey, hi, Chico.
Hi, Pete. Good to have you.
Great to see you. I like the stories, man.
Good question. You come to Minnesota, I'll give you a ride on that boat. And then you could take Terrari's glove back.
Hey,
yeah,
that's a good trade-off.
I think so.
Yeah. I remember them wheeling that boat out of the Zamboni entrance onto the ice. It was unbelievable.
It was very nice.
What's the perfect food? I'm sorry. What's the perfect food to eat on the pontoon boat? Chico eats on the boat. Chico eats on the boat.
Okay, it would be like, what do they call it now? You know, there's this new thing. There's even a place in Crosby where I live now where they're platters. They're making these pontoon platters, and there's some, cheese, a lot of cheese, crackers, maybe some crab salad, that kind of thing, and nothing major. Like none of them have. Back, years ago, people used to put their barbecues on them, but that's not. Yeah, I mean, so,
I don't know how safe it is to have a barbecue on a pontoon boat.
My cousin had one. My cousin had a barbecue on his.
I thought that's what you did, actually.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it worked when you used it.
You get that wrong wave, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you're going to be.
Well, that's why you only.
Yeah.
That's why you only grill in nice, calm waters. You don't grill as you're moving. Come on.
Yeah.
no.
Those lakes are nice and calm up
really
there.
good tips on boating. Hey, did I tell you guys this? And this is the honest truth. When I come on here, you're tempted to embellish just the story, but I would never do that. But I got the boat home, and stop me if I did. And what they did, they put my name on there. It said, Glenn Chico Resch, New Jersey Devils. It's really nice, but we're not a big lake, and it's kind of pretentious, I thought. But I didn't do it, and so it's like the plaque on the wall.
Yeah.
The award on the wall. I didn't do that. But this is nowhere to lie, you guys. So the first time, and I got two other couples, I backed the boat out, and it's in reverse, and I'm just learning this, and I see a bald eagle up overhead.
Oh, wow.
This is nowhere to lie. And I'm looking at him because, bald eagles have come back in a big way here in Minnesota. And we got two pair around our lake. And all of a sudden, I'm backing up, and he starts to dive. I am not kidding you guys. Their eyes are obviously. Wasn't. I'm just saying, maybe from the goal net to the face-off circle is how far he was to the dot, and he hit the water, you guys, and he came up with this fish. It was a walleye, which are this is what everybody that's the best eating. But he picked it up, and he had to get to the other shore, and he is lugging this thing, flapping his wings, and I'm watching, we're all watching, and he's getting close to that shore, and I'm saying, he's not getting enough lift. Something's going to happen here, and it's not going to be good. Or it's going to be good for the fish, because when he got about 30 feet from shore, he dropped that huge fish. And but what I was thinking was that bald eagle. I thought that bald eagle. He's a Ranger fan, and he sees a devil's boat on the lake, and he's going after me. And but like a true Ranger fan, he dropped the fish before he could bring it home. So, and that's an honest, true story.
Chico, I gotta ask you a question. Living on a lake, do you do a lot of fishing or?
Not a lot. I'm from Saskatchewan, which we didn't have lakes there. It's like the prairies. It's all farming country. I had a couple bad experiences in the swimming pool and people. Anyway, I'm not a water lover, but nice to look at. And when friends come, when you guys have your podcast out here some summer, we'll have it on the pontoon.
Hey, yes. There you go.
Hey, yes, I'm in.
I'm gonna bring some fishing gear.
No barbecuing. Hey
no
guys,
barbecuing while we're moving.
We'll barbecue. Whatever. We'll barbecue on land. Chico, we will supply all the food. Chico, we'll supply all the food for the barbecue if you're going to take us out on your boat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So what are you going to bring that I know is from Jersey? What are we going to have?
Man.
Taylor ham? Or?
Taylor ham, yes.
Oh,
we will absolutely be bringing Taylor ham.
100%.
I don't know. I live out in the farms. I live out in a town called Long Valley, and we're surrounded by farms, and we have some great farm to table food out here. So I get when we get meat, we get the Chester meat markets out this way, which has some of the best meat. They don't pay me to say this. Mm-hmm. The only person that's paying me to say things are my father-in-law owns a bar called Tavern on the Rocks. You can see I'm wearing this. I'm not muscular. It's just a medium shirt, which is extra small. That's all he had. But I told him
he still didn't pay you. He still didn't pay you to say that.
No, he doesn't pay me. But the reason why I asked you about fishing is because it's funny. We don't really get out, a lot out here nowadays because of what's going on. So I threw my wife and the kids in the car and we were going for a drive and we found this little pond and drive up and we're walking around and there's just fish everywhere. And all I could think about was just going fishing. If I lived on a lake, I would never be in my house. I would be on a boat every day.
Well, it's certainly if you fall in love with fishing, you are hooked. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's an all or nothing. Well, yeah, you're hooked. Fun there, yeah. Hopefully the fish is hooked, not you. But if you're not used to casting, I've seen people hook themselves.
Oh, there it is. There's the organ.
Hey,
oh, there we go.
We got Pete back.
All right. Organ music.
I was listening to the Brass Bonanza today.
Great song.
I'm serious too.
Seriously, but I'm serious. It's a great song.
So are you guys getting hacked? Somebody piping in organ music to bring us down?
We got organ everywhere.
Sam, turn your mic on, Sam.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, we didn't get hacked, Chico. We have Organist P. Sometimes he just actually Organist P may be a hacker. He just hacked into the kind of spoiling the party.
Okay, but where would that have come from, guys? Where do you hear organ music?
The only place that we should ever hear music, and I can't wait to hear you, Pete, live, is back at the Rock.
Yeah, that's right.
That's really where we should be hearing organ music is at a hockey game. Sooner rather than later.
That's what we hope for.
Yeah.
Well, they're talking now, guys. Probably end of November for us. Devils.
Hey, and if it is,
we'll be there.
Yeah,
we'll be there when it happens. We're all just ready to, see some games.
You know what though?
Guys. Go ahead.
I know it's not hockey, but soccer and NASCAR started back up. German soccer started up this weekend, and they played without fans in the stadiums, and it was just so odd. And I can't imagine hockey is going to be any less odd than that because of all it's just, you need that crowd noise at soccer. You need that crowd noise, especially at hockey. It's just to come back without fans. It would be great just to see the comeback, but man, without fans, it's going to be weird. And if November's when we have to wait, I will be there. I will be there early, and I will be celebrating being back with everybody.
No, you're right. I mean, they should put cardboard cutouts at least in the fans, and then pipe in music. I mean, in crowd noise, because how are you going to get excited about a goal, or how are you going to get mad at somebody, and then there's no reaction? I mean, you're right. I don't know if did the soccer match. Did they pipe in canned noise or not?
Not really. All you heard was the noise of the players on the field. And when someone scored, you heard the team celebrate and the staff, but that was all. And it's just it was the strangest thing, especially in the German league. Some of those teams have like the wildest crowd sections, and like their supporter sections were empty. And it's just, stands that should hold 10,000 people had nobody. It was the strangest thing. And yeah, it was no real pumped in crowd noise. Like one of the games you heard, planes flying by. It was the oddest thing. And
organ music. I heard there was organ music going on.
Pete, we got a request. We got a request on the Facebook group for you to. Do you know the theme music to the NHL '94, the video game by any chance? That's fantastic.
All right.
Hey,
it kind of feels like we're home already. Right? Chico, we have you. We have Pete.
Can I show Chico something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
This is from a giveaway. Wait, let me go to the camera.
Okay.
Oh, this is my favorite
I have
giveaway.
this.
Oh yeah, I got that too.
Oh, nice.
I have that too.
It too.
Yeah.
Actually, right here behind me.
And
I got it right
stick,
behind me.
Wow.
The stick comes out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The
That's
stick comes
true.
out.
Hey, but
the old Victoriaville.
you gotta flip the stick up the other way, guys. See, they were made in China and they don't know hockey. You don't put the stick with the blade up. Do that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can use your
can.
fingernail. Try that thing out. Try that thing out with your fingernail. Not the stick, but even the black holding part of it. It comes out really
you're
easy.
right.
And then flip it around. Because when I saw them, I thought, they're not hockey fans in China. Let's see the new. See? Doesn't that look better?
Let me get this back in here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
See?
Funny.
Now we're talking hockey.
That's like a whole new giveaway right there.
There you go.
I mean, now it looks normal. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful, boys.
Right.
Yes. Hey,
Very nice.
I just thought of another thing. Let's Go Devils lead in the world of podcasting. No hockey podcast has more organ music than Let's Go Devils.
Yes!
What was your other?
And what you can't see is Sam off camera is taking his Sharpie out and making a new plaque to hang on his wall.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, but guys, this is what sports brings, right? Like we're just having fun, and we can talk. I saw City Slickers. It's an old movie with Billy Crystal.
Oh yeah.
Isn't it funny? But there was a part in there, like why men love to talk old baseball, and they remember, like, you remember that Chris Terreri save. We all remember the Scott Devitt, just depends which one you like the most. Was it on Korea? Was it on Lindros? But, that's what I think men miss, is that, I don't know why, but we just we just love to talk sports, and then
it's our way to bond.
Yeah.
It's
It
like
is,
that
isn't
common
it? Yeah.
ground. It's that common ground,
Yeah.
that the common denominator between, you could be from anywhere, in the world, and if you find that one common denominator, and for a lot of us, it's sports. And that's why I love you brought up a great point about thinking about that first time you ever went to a hockey game, or that first memory that you have. And one of my favorite things in life is to talk to somebody that's not a hockey fan, that has no interest in the game, and bringing them to a game and watching that transformation. I'll never forget, I brought a friend when I was a long time ago. I was living in Philadelphia, unfortunately, and I brought my friend Daryl to a Devils game, and he's never seen hockey before. He had no real interest in it, and I kept talking about it, and he's like, all right, fine. It was like I finally twisted his arm enough. He was like, fine, just bring me to a game. And I was like, I'm telling you, it's going to change your world. And we went to a game, and we had a couple of beers, and we were having fun. And I just sat back, and I looked over at him, and he's watching the speed of the game. And in the middle of the game, I wish, my brain is foggy, but I wish I could remember who got into a fight. But there was a fight, and I remember everybody stands up, and they're going crazy. And he looks at me, and I'm going to clean this up for the air, but he says, so this is what I've been missing? And I'm like, yeah, this is what you've been missing. This is the game that I love. Like, this is why we love it so much. It's so much fun to see live. And after that, changed him into a hockey fan. So it's that's one of my favorite things to do, is bring somebody that has no interest in it and bring them to a live game, because there's nothing better.
That is so true.
Definitely.
Hey, Chico, you were just talking about, being one of the guys and just talking about sports. I'll bring a good one up for you. Do you remember Devils back in '95? Because I was doing a little research myself, just looking at, some Devils iconic goals. '95, Randy McKay, overtime, Game 4, Eastern Conference Finals, 1-0, and after he scores, tries to climb the glass up. I think it's one of the most iconic moments in Devils history, where he's looking around, trying to, climb that glass up after he scored that goal in OT. I was a 1-0 game. I almost had forgotten about that it was just a 1-0 game, and it was in the playoffs. In my mind, I was remembering it at the end of the season, like a very important game, but that was a playoff game right there.
Yeah, who was it against Boston?
Boston, yeah.
Who was that against? Yeah.
Yeah,
and
Boston.
What us average folks like. I mean, Ovechkin's going to score a ton, and there's been great goal scorers that have had some great celebrations. But when a guy like Randy McKay, he's the one, we can all identify with that. We started kidding him the Rocket. We called him Randy the Rocket.
Yeah.
And he's a lovely guy. But, there again, you take, the guys, Bobby Holik, that, the crash line, but you got to have the featured players, no question. You don't win without that talent. But those guys underneath that level that have the character of like Randy McKay and Bobby Holik and, just so many, Jay Pandolfo, I think it's Jay, what he brought. But, and then when they score a goal, isn't it amazing? Like, I know it's exciting, but it's like they're coming out of their skin. Like, I didn't score a goal, obviously, but the forwards, I would always be amazed when they would score. I think, I get it, but you just ruined my night. But so I hope you're having a good time. But I always loved non-scorers when they scored, and it just it was just a beautiful sight. But you were right; I could still see him doing that. Yeah,
climbing up.
It's like talking about those random goals. We had Cam Jansen on last week, and he brought up about scoring a goal on Marty in practice. And I don't think that seems to be like it was his favorite goal, is just scoring on Marty in a practice. And we found the video, and just the entire place went nuts. And Cam was all excited, and Brodeur was kind of like, okay. But that seemed to be Cam's, like, he was so jacked about that situation and that goal, and over-celebrated in just practice.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I guess there's a video out there of Alain Nazardine scoring in Montreal, and Crosby sets him up, and he only scored. You probably find it on YouTube because it was out there when it was an anniversary or something, and the boys were kidding him. But even he said, no, I kind of went, I just went a little bit over the top. But, you don't think, right? I mean, I don't know if there's many things in life that excite a person so much that they lose consciousness of everything but just what happened, And I mean, it doesn't, you don't get that chance very often. And it's like when we won the cup, when you win the cup, you can't really think. It's all emotion. There's no intellect. It's like the intellectual avenues have been shut down. There's nothing smart is going to come out of an athlete right after they won a championship. And you see that. I mean, they're babbling idiots, being interviewed after the big game. You can't think. It's just, it's the best emotional experience. Well, there's others, but I'm just saying a guy like Randy McKay. And the other one, how about Adam Henrique's goal against the Rangers?
Yeah. That's
number 14.
Yeah.
The look on Adam's face.
That's like top 3. Yeah, that's like top 3 all time, I feel like.
That one killed demons of the past. That was aside from the fact that it knocked the Rangers out, that Adam Henrique goal killed demons of the past that we all grew up hearing about. And his goal negated the other goal, which I'm not going to mention, because it was finally, it was closure. It was closure for all of us who are around the age, who were, let's say
all of us
10 to 10 years old, maybe a little bit younger up until now. That Henrique goal was closure.
Well, that's a great point. And don't you think, guys, until we win, the Devils win a cup in the Prudential Center, to me, that is the high water mark so far. Until we finally win a cup there.
Yeah. Actually, I think
I'm trying to think of some other moments, but
the St. Patrick's Day when Marty, set the record, and Patrick Eliot, I think he got most points all time with that assist.
The same game.
The
you kind of feel bad.
Yeah. The same game.
Yeah, but
it was.
But I don't.
That place was rocking. That place was rocking that night.
That game was awesome, but I don't think that's better than the Henrique goal there. But it is another high water mark.
If they had done if Patty and Marty had done it against the Rangers, maybe. You know what I mean? It just, or was it? I don't think it was against the Rangers. I can't remember who they did it against.
It was against Blackhawks, actually.
Yeah, it was the Blackhawks.
I was there. I have the ticket still. I have it framed in my bedroom, actually.
Well, I mean, for you, that may be the highlight. But I'm just saying, where the Randy McKay crawling up the glass, Adam Henrique coming to the Zamboni entrance there with that look on his face. It's just like, I mean, so anyway, I hope there's many more moments coming like that. But you know what, guys? I think the general manager, but it's going to be hard if we could get one defenseman. And I know those guys are hard to get, but if we could just get one, like really special young defenseman. But yeah, I'm dreaming here because how are you going to get them? Unless there's a couple in the draft that are pretty darn good, and and we got a good nucleus. Don't get me wrong. We got a good, solid defensive nucleus, but we don't have that one, guy that drags everybody else along with them, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
We could get there. Pete, do you have
got
a question for Chico?
Yes. Hey, Chico. I love listening to you and Maddie on the live broadcast. It's really, really great. In the car on the way home. Then when I get home, I turn the game on and watch the game. And then I listen to your radio broadcasts. And I'm wondering, as a broadcaster, when you're in the arena and we're during a game and there's a whistle and you and Maddie are analyzing what's going on before we drop the puck again, and the music is playing and the crowd is loud, but when I'm listening to the replay, I'm hearing you guys so clear and so well. I mean, how you have like a microphone, that's on steroids, so you could really, do you eat the mic? I mean, how does that, how do you get such a good sound on your voice? And you
It's going to be the next Chico Eats. Chico
really
Eats the microphone.
How do you guys?
Well, thank you, Pete.
Man.
Pete, that's a
I
good
think we lost-
question.
There
Pete,
you
okay, Pete, that is a great question because, again, when I was a little boy in Regina, not far from Moose Jaw, and you guys know where Moose Jaw is.
6 feet from the tail.
Right? Yes, thank you.
From the tail.
But
I do now.
The fantasy world of playing hockey and then broadcasting, and we had a tabletop hockey game, and I would be the announcer with my friends, and then so I don't know what it is, you guys. It's like when you took your friend there. What was his name again? Norman.
Daryl.
No.
Yeah.
Daryl. I know.
Norm. It could be Norman. Why not?
But yeah, Daryl, my brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl. But the thing is, when that it's sort of, what it's like. It's like a gas stove. Okay, you got a gas stove. The pilot light is always lit. If it's an electric stove, the thing just shuts down. But when you got a gas stove, it's always lit. And you turn that knob, and boom, that thing just explodes. I think it's kind of like that with diehard hockey fans. Our pilot light is always lit. And then, depending on what really excites you about hockey, for me, it is goals or a big play. I don't know why it just goes boom. So I think because of the fans. I mean, the fans are they're so easy to please. Sometimes they can be difficult to please, but they're always there and loyal. And I don't know, I just met. I probably have. I'm not bragging, but maybe 15 to 20,000 fans I've met that I can kind of remember their faces and stuff, and it's just because of that excitement. I just think you're unbelievable how you never waver on bringing the excitement, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, we live and die with the Devils, and it is though. Even when I just think I'm going to see one more cup. I don't know when, but I'm thinking if we could get, and I believe in Mackenzie Blackwood. I believe in our two centermen can be on every Stanley Cup team. You got to have the 1-2 guy, right? We've got some other nice pieces. I hope Adam Foote's kid can use his hands as well as his feet and pump home goals. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but I do think now in today's hockey, it's like St. Louis, you don't have to have like 5 or 6 Hall of Famers like the Devils had to win the Stanley Cup. There seems to be other factors that deciding edge and winning cups now rather than back in the the 90s and early 2000s.
Very cool. Well, speaking of all this change that we're going through with the team and everything like that, I figured now, because we were talking about it a little earlier, Fitzy, pulling the trigger to trade Andy Green. Currently, the Devils do not have a captain. And this is something that we've talked about a lot on this podcast. I'm just curious your thoughts on who you might. We have two very obvious candidates that we go back and forth on, but who do you think might be the next captain of the New Jersey Hockey Devils?
Who might those two be? Are they both under 21?
No.
Actually, no. One is not. One of them's not.
Only one.
Well, who are they?
Our two selections have always been Palmieri or Nico. Kyle or Nico.
Okay, that's interesting. Because
who do you think?
There was that. Remember, there was that big trend where you had to give it to your best young player.
Yeah,
which would disqualify Kyle. But I also think that if you look at it on a short-term basis, let's say a veteran, well, like Andy was, but let's just say a veteran who would be willing to really go to bat as a captain, because you got to really put yourself out there. I remember, it was Johnny Hines or Elaine said to Wayne Simmons, "Wayne, we brought you here for your leadership. You gotta not think, well, it's not really my team. I'm the new guy. You got to jump in and you got to, feel like this is your team." So, yeah, I like those two choices. Yeah, I would say those are the
Was there anyone else you had in mind there? Anyone else?
No, I was trying to think. Jack's not ready yet, so Jack wouldn't be good. Now, you can't give it to a goalie. The defenseman, I like our defense, but nobody's. You're right. No.
Kyle just seems to have that consistency, that leadership, and from us,
and he's
as
from
we
New
were
Jersey.
talking about the Devils, he's from New Jersey, but also like we were talking, those last month or so of the season, we saw Nico Hischier grow leaps and bounds in terms of his leadership, and just seeing it on ice, he's making people around him better. So that's who we were always thinking about in our minds.
Well, that's a great question. Now, what about that, you guys? Has the role of the captain changed? Like some people say, well, he's got to be great in the locker room. And, of course, he has to have some charisma. He has to have some semblance of presence. But I don't know. I think what you do on the ice maybe is the most important thing on being a captain now. Because – guys in the locker room, like, just with us, somebody can have great sayings in the locker room and be emotional. But, geez, if he doesn't go out on the ice and get some things done, are you going to continue to really think of him as the leader? And so that's a really good point. And both those guys can do it. And, I'm just trying to – who is a quiet – like, I think of – I don't say Mark Messier just because he was fiery. Ovechkin's fiery. I would say, do you guys think? Let's say it's going to be Nico, just because he's going to be here for so long. Do you think he is fiery enough to be captain? And I'm not asking you to just question his character, but is the fieriness an important part of it, or maybe not?
You know what? I'm going to say yes with Nico, because there was a lot of, especially it seemed after Taylor Hall was traded away, Nico kind of became a little bit more vocal. And there was a lot of plays that happened that they would kind of show where he was getting in other people's faces, and he was starting to get a little bit more physical with other players. And he was starting to kind of in front of the net and like almost find his own. I'm not saying that's because Taylor was gone, but it just seemed like there was a different, maybe because we were able to focus on him more and you were able to see it more. But for us as fans, you could see like Nico Hischier took like a developmental step where he was starting to become, like you said, more passionate on the ice, telling guys, I'm not going to say the words, but telling guys to go bleep off. And when he was feeling emotional about a situation, or getting in another, him and Taves having a little confrontation. And there's a couple players that he had a confrontation. So I feel like maybe he might be the next captain. But I also want to say this, Chico, I know we're kind of getting towards the end of everything. And like I've said before, this is such an honor to be able to talk to you. And I have to tell you a quick story. When I was, growing up and watching hockey and really becoming a Devils fan, one of my fondest memories is listening to you and Doc Emmerich call a Devils game. And the two of you played together so well, and just the dynamic of the two of you. And I'm not taking anything away from Maddie. I'm not taking away from anybody else, but you and Doc had such a special relationship, and the way that you would, he would call the game, and you would kind of just jump in, and it was like the best duo. And I always felt that you were the two most underappreciated broadcasters in all of the NHL. And I'm probably biased by saying this, but as a fan listening to you and Doc for all those years, it was probably the greatest memories I'll ever have as a Devils fan. And I want to thank you for that, and thank you for everything that you do, honestly.
Yeah, man.
Because all of the hours of entertainment and all the calls and everything.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. Don't you think? Thank you, guys, all of you. I mean, this is what's fun. I know where your hearts are at, and that's really what I look at when I see fans. You could tell right away where their heart's at. There's only a few fans that fans who kind of think they know it all. Like, you want to have people with strong opinions, but there's only a few of them. But don't you think, guys, that's kind of what makes us special as Devils? We never seem to get the respect. I don't know it doesn't matter, but no, you're right. We didn't get the respect as a team. And the fans never. I mean, I don't know, just New Jersey, but it also made us close, right? It made the fans, the announcers, everybody close, because it's so. Yeah, it's just been a wonderful run. Some of those, you think of some of those games and seasons we had, and oh my, the anticipation, of going to a game. I don't know. I hope it's not the high water mark for all of us. I mean, I hope you guys have another one or two.
No way.
But no.
No, there are still bright days ahead.
There are bright days.
Well,
yeah.
I
we look forward to hearing you. We look forward to hearing Pete. I mean, those are the things I miss the most right now, is going to a game and listening to Pete play, especially, and Pete, here's to you too. Thank you for everything that you do, because, when we're at the game, and even those little fills and those little things that you do on the side, like, in between or even before the game when you're sitting in your seat and you get your hot dog, and we think about Chico Eats and all those fun times too, like those little moments, I think, is what we miss the most, the calls of the game and everything else. So thank you both so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. I miss it
well,
as well.
I think we found out when nobody goes to the game. I think we find out, like I've always said this, I've even said it. My wife said it to me. She said, it's about the game and it's about the fans. And if we get a look that fans don't go, the game's pretty empty. It really is. And you can play. And I get they want to do it. I know there's financial considerations. People would say, I just want something. But to watch it on TV with no fan, I don't know. Maybe we wait, but we won't. I mean, if they could get back. But why couldn't you? Here's what I'm thinking, social distancing. why couldn't you have a lot? Or, I mean, it takes some work, but I thought just put 5,000 people in there and spread them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hockey distancing, but to play with no fans, it's not what hockey is. And so, like we're saying, guys, we're all kind of part of this together. And so I'll help you what I can. I'm going to try to get Scotty Clements, and Scotty's just, the only player or the first player from Des Moines, Iowa to make it. And what a great guy. I don't know if you guys have ever had a chance to hear him much, but he would be good. So we'll work on that. And
all right,
great.
If we could do this again, it's always fun, boys. Always fun.
Thank you. Yeah.
Chico, thank you so much. When we get back, we're going to have to invite you to PJ Ryan's outside
Tavern on the Rocks.
And Tavern on the Rocks.
Okay, Tavern on the Rocks.
Rockaway, New Jersey.
Tavern on the Rocks. And
we're road tripping into Minnesota for the pontoon boat.
Oh,
yes.
Oh yeah.
Hey, that would be. I mean, well, I don't know how big your sponsorship is, but a traveling podcast. I think it would sell.
We'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen. Absolutely.
It's actually funny you say that,
We'll
Chico,
get that
because Chico, we're actually trying to raise $35 million for this private jet that we're trying to take our fans on the road to watch our Devils in someone else's building, and we come out victorious and we jet away on our private jet. Do you think that we can do that, or maybe borrow your boat sometime to,
Yeah, you can sail down the Mississippi, down to New Orleans, and then around New York, New Jersey. Well, that must mean something. All right, boys.
All right. Thank you, Chico.
Hey.
Thank you, Melissa. One last thing.
Yes. Hey, one more thing. Have you had a podcast? Remember down in Florida, you were going to have the outdoor podcast?
Yes.
Have you had any of those?
The outdoor ones? No.
Yeah. Have you ever had an outdoor podcast like before the game? Or is that too hard to set up?
No, yeah, we've done that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We've done live ones.
Yeah.
The
place
for
okay. Well, get another plaque made for that then. More plaques. Let's fill that wall with plaques. Let's go Devil plaque. I want one. Anyway,
can make it happen.
Hey,
we'll make
see you, boys.
See you.
Thank you, Chico.
Thank you, Chico. Thank you so much.
Okay. See you
Till
down the
next
road.
time.
Bye, gentlemen.
Till next
Go
time.
Devils.
Let's go Devils.
Let's go Devils.